Hi, everybody. This is Chapter 8 of The Outsiders, read by Mr. Hart. The nurses wouldn't let us see Johnny. He was in critical condition. No visitors, that's what that meant. But Two-Bit, he wasn't going to take no for an answer. That was his buddy in there, and he aimed to see him. We both begged and pleaded, but we were getting nowhere until the doctor found out what was going on. "Let them go in," he said to the nurse. "He's been asking for them, and it's not going to hurt now." Two-Bit didn't notice the expression in the doctor's voice, but I did. It's true, I thought numbly. He's dying. We went in practically on tiptoes because the quietness of the hospital scared us. Johnny was lying still with his eyes closed, and when Two-Bit said, "Hey, Johnny, kid," he opened it up and he looked at us, grinning. "Hey, y'all." The nurse who was pulling the shades open smiled and said, "So he can talk after all." Two-Bit looked around. "They treating you okay, kid?" They don't let me put enough grease on my hair," Johnny said. Don't talk," Two-Bit said, pulling up a chair. "Just listen. We're going to bring you up some hair grease next time. We're having that big rumble tonight." Johnny's huge black eyes widened a little, but he didn't say anything. "It's too bad you and Dally can't be in it. It's the first big rumble we've ever had, not counting that time we whipped Shepard's outfit." "He came by," Johnny said. "Tim Shepard did?" Johnny nodded. "Came to see Dally." Tim and Dallas had always been buddies. "Did you know that you got your name in the paper for being a hero?" Johnny almost grinned as he nodded. "Tough enough," he managed. And by the way his eyes were glowing, I figured Southern gentlemen had nothing on Johnny Cade. I could see that even a few words were tiring him out, though. He was pale as a pill and he looked awful. But Two-Bit just pretended not to notice. "You want anything besides hair grease, kid?" Johnny barely nodded. "The book." He looked at me. "Can you get another one?" Two-Bit looked at me, too, because I hadn't told him about Gone with the Wind. "He wants a copy of Gone with the Wind so I can read it to him like I did at the church," I explained. "You want to run down to the drugstore and get one for us?" "All right," said Two-Bit cheerfully, "but don't you all run off now." I sat down in Two-Bit's chair and I tried to think of something to say. "Dallas is going to be okay," I said finally, "and Derry and me, we're okay now, too." I knew Johnny would understand what that meant. We've always been close buddies, and those lonely days in that church strengthened our friendship. He tried to smile again, and suddenly he went white and closed his eyes. "Johnny," I said, are you okay?" He nodded, keeping his eyes closed. "Yeah, it just hurts sometimes. I mean, it usually don't, but I can't feel anything below my middle of my back." He lay breathing heavily for a moment. "I'm pretty bad off, ain't I, pony boy?" You'll be all right," I said, with fake cheerfulness. "You gotta be. I mean, we couldn't get along without you after all, Johnny." The truth of that last statement hit me. We couldn't get along without him. We needed Johnny as much as he needed the gang. And for the same reasons, too. "I'm never going to be able to walk again," Johnny started, then faltered. "Not even on crutches. I busted my back real good, Pony." He'll be all right," I said firmly. "Don't start crying on me." I commanded myself, "Don't you start crying either, Pony boy, or else you're going to scare Johnny." "You want to know something, Pony boy? I'm scared stiff. I used to talk about killing myself." He drew a quivering breath. "But I don't want to die now. It ain't been long enough. 16 years ain't long enough for a kid to die. I wouldn't mind it so much if there wasn't so much stuff I hadn't done and so many things I hadn't seen. It's not fair. You know what? That time that we were in Windricksville was the only time I've ever even been away from our own neighborhood. He ain't gonna die, all right?" I said, trying to hold my voice down. "And you're gonna get juiced up because the doctors won't let you see us no more if you do." 16 years in the streets, and you can learn a lot, but all the wrong things, not the things you want to learn. 16 years on the streets, and you see a lot, but you see all the wrong sights, and not the sights you want to see. Johnny closed his eyes and rested quietly for a minute. Years of living on that east side teaches you how to shut off your emotions. And if you didn't, you'd explode. You learned to cool it, though. A nurse appeared in the doorway. "Johnny, your mother's here to see you." Johnny opened his eyes. At first they were wide with surprise, and then they darkened. "I don't want to see her," he said firmly. "She's your mother, sweetheart." "I said I don't want to see her." His voice was rising. "She'll probably come to tell me how much trouble I am causing her and about how glad her and the old man are going to be when I'm dead. Well, tell her to leave me alone for once." His voice broke. "For once, just leave me alone!" He was struggling to sit up, but suddenly he gasped. He went whiter in the pillowcase, and then he passed out cold. The nurse heard me over. Oh, I was afraid something like this would happen if he saw anyone. I ran into Two-Bit, who was coming back in. You can't see him now. With that, Two-Bit just handed her over the book. Well, make sure that he can see it when he gets around, okay? She took it and closed the door behind her. Two-Bit stood and looked at the door for a long time. Oh, God, I wish it was any of us except for Johnny, he said. We could get along without anyone except for Johnny. Turning abruptly, he said, well, let's go see Dallas. As we walked out of the hall, we saw Johnny's mother. I knew her. She was a little woman, but straight black hair and big black eyes like Johnny's. But that was as far as resemblance went. Johnny Cake's eyes were fearful and sensitive, and hers were cheap and hard. As we passed her, she was saying, but I have a right to see him. He's my son. After all the trouble his father and I have gone to raise him, this is our reward. He'd rather see those no-count hoodlums than his own folks. She saw us and gave us a look of hatred it was so deep that I almost backed up. It's your fault. Always run around the middle of the night getting jailed and heaven knows what else. I thought she was going to cuss us out. I really did. Two-Bit's eyes got narrow and I was afraid he was going to start something. I don't like to hear women get sworn at, even if they do deserve it. No wonder he hates your guts, Two-Bit snapped. He was going to tell her off real good, but I shoved him along. I felt sick at that moment. No wonder Johnny didn't want to see her. No wonder he stayed overnight at Two-Bit's or our house half the time and slept in the vacant lot in good weather. I remembered my mother. She was beautiful and golden like soda pop, and wise and firm like dairy. Oh, Lordy! There was a catch in Two-Bit's voice, and he was closer to tears than I'd ever seen him. He has to live with that? Are you kidding me? We hurried to the elevator to get on the next floor. I hoped the nurse would have enough sense not to ever let Johnny's mother in to see him. I really do believe if he saw her, it would kill him. When we came to see Dally, he was arguing with one of the nurses when we went in. He grinned at us, though. Man, am I glad to see you. These hospital people won't even let me smoke in here. I need to get out. We sat down grinning at each other. Dally was his usual mean, ornery self, but he was all right. Shepard came to see me a while ago. Yeah, that's what Johnny said. What did he tell you? He said that my picture was in the paper and he couldn't believe it if there wasn't a wanted dead or alive underneath it. He mostly came in to rub in the fact that there's going to be a rumble tonight and I can't be part of it. Man, I hate not being in that. After last week, Tim Shepard had cracked 3 of Dally's ribs. But today, Dally and Shepard they were buddies again. Quite frankly, they'd always been buddies. No matter how many times they fought, they were two of a kind, and both of them knew it. Dally was grinning at me at this moment. Kid, you scared me the devil out of me that day. I thought I'd kill you for having to make me go in and save you. Me? Why? When you jumped out of that church, God, I meant to hit you just hard enough to knock you down and put out that fire, but when you drop like that, you drop like a ton of lead. I thought I aimed too high and I thought I might have broke your neck. He thought for a minute. I'm glad I didn't, though, I guess. I'll bet you are. I never liked Dally, but then for the first time, I felt like, you know what, maybe he is my buddy. And all because he was glad he hadn't killed me. What a guy. Dally looked over out the window. He sounded very casual. How's the kid doing? We just left him, Two-Bit said, and I could tell that he was debating whether to tell Dally the whole truth or not. I don't know about stuff like this, but, well, he seemed pretty bad to me. He passed out cold before we even left him. Dally's jawline went as white as he swore under his clenched teeth. Two-Bit, you got that fancy black-handed switch, don't you? Yeah, give it to me. Two-Bit reached into his back pocket for the prized possession. It was a jet-handled switchblade 10 inches long that would flash open in a mere breath. It was the reward for 2 hours of walking aimlessly around a hardware store and divert suspicion. He kept it razor sharp, and as far as I knew, he had never pulled it out on anyone. He used his plain pocket knife when he needed a blade. But this was a showpiece. This was Two-Bit's pride and joy. Every time he ran into a new hood, he would pull it out and show it off. Dally knew how much that knife meant to Two-Bit, and if he needed a blade bad enough to ask for it, well, tell you what, he needed a blade. That was all there was to it. Two-Bit handed it over to Dally without a moment's hesitation. We gotta win that fight tonight. We gotta win. We gotta get even with those Sosas. We gotta do it for Johnny. He pulled the switch under his pillow and he laid back, staring at the ceiling. We left. We knew better than to talk to Dally when his eyes were blazing and he was in a mood like that. We decided to catch the bus home. I'm just glad I didn't feel much like walking or trying to hitch a ride. Two-Bit left me sitting on a bench on the bus stop when he went to a gas station to buy some cigarettes. I was kind of sick to my stomach and sort of groggy. I nearly asleep when I felt someone's hand on my forehead. I almost jumped out of my skin. Two-Bit was looking down at me worriedly. You feel all right? You look awful hot. I'm all right, I said. When he looked at me, if he didn't believe me, I got a little panicky. Now, don't you go tell Derry, all right? Come on, Two-Bit. Be a buddy. I'll be well by tonight, and I'll take my aspirins, okay? All right. But Derry's going to kill me if you're really sick and go ahead and fight anyway, and he finds out I knew about it. All right, I'm okay, I said, getting a little angry. And if you keep your mouth shut, Derry's not going to know a thing, all right? You know something? Two-Bit said as we were getting a ride home. You think you could get away with murder living with your big brother and all, but Derry's stricter with you than your folks ever were, ain't he? Yeah, he pretty much is. But you know what? They'd raised two boys before me. Derry never had to do that. You know, the only thing that keeps Derry from being a Soch is us. I know, I've thought about that, I said. I'd known that for a long time, actually. In spite of not having much money, the only reason Derry couldn't be a Soch with us. The gang, we were his brothers. Me and Soda. Derry was too smart to be a greaser. I know how I knew. I don't know how I knew that, I just did. And honestly, I was kind of sorry for him in that regard. I was silent most of the way home. I was thinking about the rumble. I had a sick feeling in my stomach, and that wasn't from being ill. It was the same kind of helplessness I'd felt that night Derry yelled at me for going to sleep in a lot. I had the same deathly fear that nothing was going to happen, and none of us would stop. As we got off the bus, I finally said, Tonight, I don't like it one bit. Two-Bit pretended not to understand. I never knew you to play chicken on a rumble before, not even when you was a little kid. I knew he was trying to make me mad, but I decided to take the bait anyways. I ain't a chicken, Two-Bit Matthews, and you know it. Ain't I a Curtis, same as Soda and Derry? Two-Bit couldn't deny this, so I went on. I got an awful feeling something bad is going to happen. Something is going to happen. We're going to stop those Soch's gut. That's what's going to happen. Two-Bit knew what I meant, though, but doggedly pretended not to. He seemed to feel that if you said something it was all right, it immediately would become all right, no matter what. He's been that way his whole life, and I don't expect he's going to change at this point. Soda Pop would have understood, and we would have tried to figure it out together, but Two-Bit just ain't Soda. Not by a long shot. Cherry Valance was sitting in her Corvette by the vacant lot when we came by. Her long hair was pinned up, and in the daylight she had been even better looking. That Stingray was one tough car. It was a bright red one, and it was cool. Hi, Pony Boy. Hi, Two-Bit. Two-Bit stopped. Apparently, Cherry had shown up there during the week when Johnny and I had spent when we were in Windricksville. What's up with the big times? She tightened the strings on her ski jacket. They play your way. No weapons. Fair deal. Your rules. They'll do it, they said. You sure about that? She nodded. Randy told me. He knows for sure. Two-Bit turned and started home. Thanks, Cherry. Cherry guys had just given them the lowdown about the rumble, so that's why they were meeting with her. She's still her spy, and they're just making sure that the Soch are going to play by the rules. Pony Boy, stay a minute, Cherry said. I stopped before I went back to her car. Randy's not going to show up at the rumble tonight. Yeah, I know. He's not scared. He's just sick of fighting. Bob was his best buddy since grade school. I thought of Soch and Steve. What if one of them saw the others killed? Oh, I thought of Soda and Steve. What if one of them saw the other one killed? Would they stop fighting too? No, I thought. Maybe it would make Soda stop, but not Steve. He would go on hating and fighting the rest of his life. Maybe that was what Bob would have done if it had been Randy who died instead of him. How's Johnny doing? Nah, he's not so good. Will you go up to see him? No, I don't think I can. He did kill Bob. Why not? I demanded. It was at least she could do. It was her boyfriend who had caused all this. And then I stopped. Oh, God, it was her boyfriend that died. I couldn't. He killed Bob. Maybe Bob asked for it. I know he did, but I couldn't look at the person who killed him. You only knew Bob's bad side, but he could be sweet sometimes and friendly. But when he got drunk, it was that part of him that beat up Johnny. I know it was Bob when you told me the story about the rings. Gosh, Bob was so proud of his rings. Why do people even sell liquor to boys anyways? It makes no sense. Why? I know there's a law against it, but kids get it anyways. No, I can't go see Johnny. I know I'm too young to be in love and all that, but Bob was something special. He wasn't just any boy. He had something that made people follow him, something that marked him different, maybe a little better than the crowd. Do you know what I mean? And I did. Cherry saw the same things, though, in Dallas Winston as well. That is why she was afraid to see him again, and because she was afraid to fall in love with him. I knew what she meant all right, though, but she also meant she wouldn't go see Johnny because he had killed Bob. That's okay, I said sharply. It wasn't Johnny's fault Barb was a booze hand and Cherry went for boys who were bound for trouble. I wouldn't want you to see him again anyways. You're a traitor to your own kind and not loyal to us. Do you think your spying for us makes up for the fact that you're sitting here in a Corvette while my brother drops out of school to get a job? Don't you ever feel sorry for us? Don't you ever maybe try to give us Don't you try to give us handouts and then feel high and mighty about it afterwards? I started to turn and walk off, but something in Cherry's face made me stop. I was ashamed of what I just said. I can't stand to see girls cry. She wasn't crying, but she was close to it. Ah, man, I wasn't trying to give you Cherry, pony boy. I only wanted to help you. I liked you from the start, the way you talked. You're a nice kid, pony boy. Do you realize how scarce nice kids are nowadays? Won't you try to help me if you could? I would. I'd help her and Randy both, if I could. Hey, I said suddenly. Can you see the sunset real good from the west side? She blinked, startled, then smiled. I see it real good. You can see it good from the east side, too, I said quietly. Thanks, pony boy. She smiled through her tears. You dig, okay? She had green eyes. And with that, I went on, walking home slowly. A couple things I want you guys to think about. First off, why is Johnny so important to this group? They said anyone else could die except for Johnny. Why? I want you guys to think about that. Why is Johnny so important to this crew of kids here? Was Ponyboy too harsh on Cherry? Why is he getting so upset right now with Cherry? I mean, what did she do wrong? Or did she not do something wrong? But if she did do something wrong, why is he so mad at her? Also, what do you guys think is going to happen in the fight here? What do you guys think the outcome's going to be? What do you think is going to happen with Johnny? All that. So, everybody take care, and I will talk to everybody later.